Hey activists, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I have a great guest coming in from near Dallas, Texas. I just saw actually a video of his. It just came out a couple days ago, and I think I came across it from past Anarchast guest Ian Freeman, and he said, this is great. And I checked it out, and I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. So I'm going to play the video right now so you can check it out.
That we would be able to spare.
I'll take it.
Okay, perfect. So if you want to swing by our location, do you know which one we are?
You're on Stacy Road, right?
We're on, yes. Well, not on 70, not by 75, but
Stacy and Custer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I can pick those up today?
Yes, you can pick those up today.
Perfect.
Before 4:45, if you can make it.
I'll be there.
We have to get him out.
I'll be there. I'm right up the road, so.
Oh, perfect. We'll see you in a little bit then.
Perfect.
What was your name?
Brett.
All right, Brett. We'll see you here.
Okay, see you soon.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. Here to pay a traffic ticket.
Okay, can I get your driver's license, please? Yes, sir, it's $212.
And you take exact change?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me run out to the truck. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm going to be grabbing your file.
Perfect.
Yes, Mr. Sanders, this is Matthew, Frisco Municipal Court. I was calling to see, you actually have change coming back to you. I was calling to see when you wanted to pick up your change. If you can, just give me a call back. The number is 972-292-5560, and I can make sure I have it ready for you in the safe, and when you're ready to pick it up, I can give you your change. All right, sir? You have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
It's crazy.
Oh boy.
You wanna wait and count.
Wow.
Jeez, what happened?
Guess someone paid their fine.
Are you kidding me?
You can go to his YouTube channel.
Somebody paid their fine this way? How much money is it?
Wow.
See, it was a pretty cool video. I really liked how he smashed up everything and just left it. So I want to ask you, Greta, about why you did that and what happened afterwards and what you actually do. You're an activist. But before we get into all that, I'd like to find out, how did you become an anarchist?
Well, it's kind of a slow process for me. I got interested in the 2012 election cycle with Ron Paul, getting some good messaging out there. But I wasn't totally on board with the philosophy. I didn't know exactly what liberty was. But I knew that Obama was not liberty. And so I guess I can credit Barack Obama for pushing me in this far right and then eventually liberty direction. And, I found most of my ideas and perspective through YouTube, shows like Anarchast and LRN.FM, and a lot of the activism that was happening in New Hampshire, where they were just going into courtrooms and, just literally defying authority in their face. And that triggered something in my mind, and I thought, wow, this is empowering, right? These ideas that we're all just human beings and no one has authority over each other. It's all just kind of fictional, and it's been propagandized in our minds so bad that it's you feel like you're this walking, truth machine when you're in this matrix, right? And so it was really just a slow evolution from, I guess, a minarchist perspective is kind of where I started, and then eventually full-scale anarchist voluntarist.
That's great. Was there any one sort of final moment that you kind of realized you were? Was there one final thing, or was it just sort of happen gradually?
I don't think there was one moment, but I know I got into kind of this movement through guns. I became very interested in guns and was researching all the guns. And one of the guys I follow on YouTube got into this kind of a war with Adam Kokesh. They were going back and forth about the big armed march that Kokesh had planned. And so I thought, well, who's this guy? And we listened to, because he was doing his daily show, and started listening to his stuff, and he communicated the ideas pretty plain and simple, and there's just no real contradiction there. I mean, so it's logic. And so once you break through your ideas and all of your preconceived notions, it's like, this is just nature. That's all it is. It's just, once you accept nature for what it is, that's all it is.
That's great. Interesting that it was Kokesh and his armed march. I know that did actually upset a lot of people in different ways. So were you guys coming at it from not a completely voluntarist aspect, but more from like a Second Amendment sort of thing, or what was the process there?
Well, the guy that I was following, he was making videos that were against it, just because he just did not believe in civil disobedience, and that the minute you cross the river, you will be a felon. And it was true for Adam, unfortunately. But no, I was actually in support of Adam. I thought this was great, and it didn't really catch on, and he eventually kind of canceled it. But it sparked that idea of civil disobedience, standing up against the man, and I appreciated that, and that's kind of, he led me down the rabbit hole from there.
Yeah, another great video of yours is one where you're walking down the side of the highway. I think you have a sign or something, and you were open carrying, and you got arrested for it in Texas. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So for those who aren't familiar, Texas just recently kind of had a movement for open carry. And Texas has this big badass attitude that we're a big gun-toting, gun-friendly state when we were only one of 5 states that had no form of open carry. So even if you had your concealed handgun license, you still could not lift up your shirt and reach for something in the grocery store without potentially becoming a criminal. And so eventually one of our mutual friends got arrested for, actually it was a long gun on his back. He got arrested for, some weird charge, but, they were more concerned about the gun. And so that sparked this whole open carry movement. I mean, we had activists coming out of the woodwork. We had average working class, salt of the earth people coming out and marching with our long rifles, because in Texas, there is no regulation on long rifles. So it makes a lot of sense, right? So you can carry around an AR-15 on your back or a shotgun, but if the minute you carry a pistol on your belt, you're arrested and you're looking at some serious charges. And so for the last few years, we've been railing against like the Bloomberg, we call them the Bloomberg cult, the moms demand action. And
those moms. I love moms. I love my mom, but Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they just go crazy with this stuff. It's like trying to help us by forcing us to do shit. It's like, no, thanks, Mom, but stay out of it.
So we basically had an all-out media war. I mean, we were grabbing national headlines, international headlines on a daily basis, and it was a really fun movement to be a part of. And eventually, the legislation came around, and we didn't get what we wanted, which was constitutional carry, where you don't need a license, you don't need a permission slip to carry a pistol. Rather, they went with the licensed open carry route. So all of the existing concealed carry holders can now open carry their pistols as long as you have that permission slip. So now that we've set that up, I told my close group of friends that, if a police officer came up and saw me open carrying and demanded to see my ID for literally doing nothing wrong besides having a pistol on my hip, I told them that I would refuse. That's my line in the sand. And I happened to be basically cop blocking a speed trap. So there was a cop posted up on a busy highway, and he had his radar and just pulling one after another on the side of the road. And so I got my big sign that says "Cops Ahead," and I went up on the highway and was just warning people to slow down and avoid this extortion racket. And he just immediately starts backing up his cruiser, and you can see that in the video. And once he saw my pistol, he basically said, "Well, you have to show me this now," And so I didn't believe I had a basis to do that. I didn't commit a crime. I'm just standing on the side of the road with a sign, and he calls for his backup, and they said the same thing. If you're open carrying, you must show me this paper, otherwise, we're gonna have to haul you in. And so I took the arrest. And funny thing about that is one of your previous Anarchast guests with Virgil Viduva with Cell 411 had just released that on the iPhone. And so I was able to stream my arrest live to all of my cell networks. And, I didn't know if it went through, because once they took my phone and I'm in cuffs, I had no connection to the outside world. And it was about an hour into my stay there at the local jail when the guard comes in and he says, "Sanders, who are you?" Like, our phones are just lighting up. People are pissed off. And I told him, I streamed my arrest live on Cell 411, and so many people were able to jump on the video and share my my news. And I had a lawyer there that I had no contact with. The lawyer just shows up and bails me out of jail. So it was very powerful. It was a very powerful piece of activism, not only just refusing to comply with their demand, which I believe is illegal, but the communication and technology that we were able to leverage. So it wasn't fun getting arrested, but still it was kind of a milestone for me that kind of went full circle there.
Yeah, if you're watching this and you haven't seen the Cell 411 episode with Virgil Viduva, I'll put a link to it here, or wherever my video guy puts it. Check it out. Everyone, if you're any sort of freedom-loving person, or even if you're not, you should get this app on your phone, as Brett showed, and he had just got it. He didn't even know if it was working, and it really helped him out. And it's so funny. This is the funniest thing about this app. The app is a way that you can just let people know if you're having a problem. It could be a fire, it could be medical, it could be anything. But the number one thing on it that most people use it for is they're being arrested by cops, because that's actually one of the most dangerous situations that happen in the U.S. on a regular basis. And so that worked for Brett. That's really interesting. So it's interesting that you're into the firearm sort of stuff. How do you see that going? Are you guys? That's very interesting. And this, and again, you're another person who just sort of started doing something. You didn't have the permission from those guys who say they own you to do something, and you made some changes in your local area. And this is one of the things. Like a lot of anarchists out there, I think they get quite defeatist. They say, "Oh, we can't change the system, or whatever." And I don't think we can fully change it. We can't make it perfect or anything, but you can make changes. We've had Joby Weeks on, who actually was the person who got medical marijuana legalized in Colorado, which actually started a worldwide legalization movement. So we're talking people on this show have made major changes. So you there in Texas, you were able to affect some change in terms of firearms.
Absolutely, and it's actually quite a shocking trend, because we're seeing more and more states actually going towards constitutional carry, where they just abolish their licensing mechanism. So if you're legally able to purchase a firearm, you still have to go through their background checks and all of that, unless you do a personal sale. But we're seeing more and more states move that direction, and I think Texas is probably going that direction as well, because there's still a lot of activists that are still pushing for this concept. But yeah, when some activists, they get so kind of put off with dealing with the political system and trying to make change to that, and I completely understand. But if you get enough people who are pissed off enough, who can focus on one particular issue, you can really bring a lot of pressure on these politicians, and they will acquiesce to pressure in public spotlight and try and calm the people by giving them a little bit, to chew on. But so yeah, we saw a lot of success in Texas, and met a lot of great people. There's a lot of good activists down here, and so I was very proud to be part of that movement. It was kind of historical. I mean, Texas has not had any major changes since the 90s in their gun legislation, and we really abolished a Civil War area Reconstruction type ban on concealed carry. So it's really historic in as far as Texas goes. And so yeah, if you can find the right cause, you can get the right people together with the right attitude, they're willing to put their foot in the door and make some change, you can do a lot. You really can.
Yeah, take human action, as Mises said, and you actually can affect change. You just have to go out and do it. You just got to get off your butt and go do something if you're really passionate about it. And you've proven that, and so many past Anarchast guests have proven that. Virgil Viduva, who made Cell 411, he wanted to change something, and he's changing it. That app is going global, worldwide right now. Everyone's using it all over the place. It's amazing, and that's going to change everything. We can affect change, but we have to do it. You can't just sit there and not do anything. Nothing's going to change. You have to change yourself and create change around you by changing things and talking to people and getting out there. We're only here once, as far as I know. Get out there and get involved for the good reason. Like for our reasons, for trying to help people. And that's one interesting thing. I watched your video where you were arrested for not giving your permission slip to some guys on welfare, and so bizarre. But I read the comments down below on the YouTube, and there were so many that were kind of angry at you. Like, look at this punk, he's trying to cause problems where there is no problems. How does that make you feel, or what's your response to that?
I have a lot of trolls on YouTube. I mean, that's part of the YouTube comment section. It's just it's a mess. But I
Well,
expect.
half of them are cops and cop families. The order followers, those are the great video, by the way, Mark Passio, past Anarchast guest I just watched, called something about order followers, how that's the real problem in the world. And yeah, I'll bet most of those people making those comments are either cops or their families. So these are order followers. These are actually the most evil people in the world, because they're what actually makes Barack Obama or George W. Bush, they can't do anything without millions of these little scumbags running around with guns trying to enforce their immoral acts. So yeah, go on about how you feel about the comments.
That's one thing we learned from this gun rights movement, is that I'd much rather have a lefty Democrat that just wants to ban guns and tell that to my face than have a flag-toting Republican NRA member on this side saying, well, I support the Second Amendment, but. And when you say that word, it's, we call them butters, because, they say they believe in the Second Amendment and they believe in gun rights, but then they also are okay with this licensing requirement and all the hoops and that we have to jump through as law-abiding citizens when the criminals just run rampant on the streets and they're picking up guns and not following the law. So it was a big challenge, because these guys, they give money to the NRA and other mainstream gun rights organizations who have been in Texas for the last 100 years or whatever and affected no change whatsoever. And a bunch of ragtag activists get together with their long guns and start marching on the streets and picking up headlines and stirring up controversy and sparking ideas. And all of a sudden, in less than a year, we overturned a Civil War era ban. And so that's where I just kind of look and think, wow, all these organizations who claim to be pushing for more freedoms are actually not, because if they did, they would cease to exist. So if the NRA got constitutional carry in Texas, why do we need them? We have our gun rights. And so it's an important issue to me, and I learned a lot about these lobbyists and these people. They're basically part of the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It usually is that way. And isn't it so funny, right? You were standing on the side of the road with a gun on your hip, and you got kidnapped by some guys who were standing on the side of the road with a gun on their hip, extorting other people.
That's basically right. When you use the correct definitions for these people, it sounds a lot more logical, and it kind of creates some cognitive dissonance in some people. But you're right.
I think you're right, too, on the lobbies and things like that. I never fully thought about with the NRA. I never really knew what to think about that. But my experience is with any of these big organizations that have been around forever, they're usually just, part of the capitalism, fascism system. They're involved, and they raise a ton of money, and they try to make little tiny things, but they really don't want change. I think you're right.
Yep. Yeah, they and I talked to some of my local politicians about constitutional carry, and they don't care about what we think. They care about how they're rated by these organizations. So they literally kind of just do whatever the NRA says or the other other organizations, and just to make sure they can get their A rating or A+ rating, when they don't care what they pass or how they affect their constituents. So I found that interesting, that he seemed more concerned about his NRA rating and maybe going against their recommendations than my concerns. So they're all in bed together, and I'm sure they're sipping cocktails at night. And so if you want change, you're going to have to take it. And we were willing to get arrested. We were willing to break rules, and we grabbed the headlines for a solid year. And these politicians, are in Texas and claim to be these gun-toting Republicans that, have this super majority, yet we still don't have the right to bear arms, technically. We have the right to ask government to bear arms, and if they choose to give that to us or take it away, they can take it away at any time. If you get a certain Class A misdemeanor or something, they have the right, they can just revoke your license and disarm you, just like that. And so it's scary, and we're trying to move it in the other direction.
That's great. Very inspirational. Really glad I talked to you. I enjoyed the Penny video. Did anything happen after that? Because you kind of left the video and then you didn't. Did they do anything after that happen?
Well, I've gotten 2 voicemails, and the first voicemail is in the video, and then I literally just got a call just before this interview where he called again and said, "Hey, Mr. Sanders, I have your change. There's like $7 extra or something, and just wanted to know if you're going to pick it up." And I have no intention of picking that up. They can just keep that. A lot of people are thinking that it's a trap and that they're trying to get me back into the city hall so I can, get some cuffs on my hands or something. But I don't think, if they've counted it and they know I've got change, I don't think they're going to pursue it. Or if they do, then we'll have a little war on our hands. But I don't expect anything to happen. They probably will pass some policy or something that you can't pay and lose change, or they'll try to do something because they don't want other people to be empowered and do this because, it'll clog their system. They can't have that.
Which is all the reason why everyone should do it. Do these kind of things. Get out there. Affect change. Don't just take it. You don't have to. No violence, right? We're not talking about any violence here at all. We're talking about paying with pennies and trying to change some gun laws and stuff. This is how we can affect change. It's actually not that hard, but you just got to do it. As Brett found out, and he's doing it, which is awesome. So glad to have you on, Brett. Why don't you let people know anything else about yourself? Anything else you want to talk about? Your YouTube channel? Anything else?
Yeah, I'm kind of a part-time activist. I have a full-time job and everything, but, I try to get out there and cover anything that's happening around me in the Texas area or nationwide. A lot of police accountability stuff, a lot of just liberty movements. There's a cannabis legalization effort in Texas, and I try to cover that and other things. Just a lot of random stuff on my YouTube channel, but it's Brett Sanders on YouTube, youtube.com/Brett Sanders. I'm all the social networks as Brett Sanders, and pretty easy to find and talk to.
That's great. Thanks for being on. That's been another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
I think it's interesting in your introduction in the show, you said it's the world's largest anarcho-capitalist gathering, and I certainly don't dispute that, but wouldn't it be a great world if people did dispute that and people were arguing about different anarcho-capitalist conferences? Are you aware of many different anarcho-capitalist conferences around the world?
Because these bastards have no power but that which we give them. We've given them that power, and we've allowed them to run roughshod over the world. We've allowed millions of people's lives to be destroyed, and I don't give a shit what anybody wants to say. I have no interest in political correctness. We are directly responsible for that bullshit, and this is why we must stop it. No one else is coming in to save us. There is no fucking savior. We have to change this circumstance. So I say it because I don't believe we have any chance of handing over this world to our children and future generations in a better state unless we take responsibility.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.